My name is Roxanne, 35 years old, and I founded and run a successful tech company. I was sitting in my office when my phone rang with a name I never thought would appear again. My father. The man who abandoned me for his new stepson years ago. He was furious that I hadn't hired his precious Kyle as a manager. What shocked me more was learning they were about to lose their house. If you're watching this, let me know where you're viewing from, hit that like button and subscribe, as I tell you how I dealt with the family that threw me away. Growing up, I had what I thought was the perfect childhood. My mum and dad doted on me, their only child. We lived in a modest house in a nice suburban neighborhood in Ohio. Dad worked as an engineer at a manufacturing plant while mum was an elementary school teacher. They both encouraged my natural curiosity and intelligence from an early age. Roxanne has such a bright mind, my mum would always tell visitors. She's going to change the world someday. I was particularly drawn to computers and technology, spending hours taking apart and reassembling old electronics Dad would bring home from garage sales. By age 12, I had built my first computer from scratch, with Dad guiding me through the process. "You've got a real talent for this stuff, Roxy," he'd say proudly. "Much better than I was at your age." Our family was tight-knit. Weekends were spent hiking in nearby parks, having movie nights with homemade popcorn, or working on science projects together. Those memories are still vivid snapshots of happiness that I clung to during darker times. Everything changed when I was 14. Mum was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer. The following 8 months were a blur of hospital visits, the smell of antiseptic, and watching my beautiful, vibrant mother wither away. Dad and I became even closer during this time, united in our grief and determination to make Mum's final months comfortable. When she passed away, Dad and I leaned on each other heavily. There were nights when I'd find him sitting in the kitchen at 3 a.m., staring at old photos, tears streaming down his face. I'd make us both hot chocolate, and we'd share stories about Mum until sunrise. "We're going to get through this together, Roxy," he promised. "It's you and me against the world now." For almost 2 years, we functioned as a team. I took on more household responsibilities while maintaining straight A's in school. Dad worked hard to provide for us and be present for my activities despite his grief. He never missed a science fair or academic competition. When I expressed interest in studying computer science in college, he started a dedicated college fund with the modest life insurance money Mum had left. "Your future is the most important thing that," he told me. "Your mum would want every penny to go toward your education." I was 16 when things began to change. Dad started dating again, which I understood and even encouraged. He deserved happiness. Most of the women he dated were nice enough, but none seemed to stick around for more than a few weeks. Then he met Amanda at a work function. She was attractive, outgoing, and worked in the HR department of his company. From the beginning, something felt off about her interest in my father. She was overly sweet when I was around, but I occasionally caught calculating looks when she thought I wasn't watching. "Your dad talks about you constantly," she told me during our first dinner together. "Such a smart girl. You must get that from your mother's side." The subtle dig didn't escape me, but Dad seemed oblivious to it too, caught up in having female attention again. Amanda had a son named Kyle, who was 17 at the time, a year older than me. Initially, Dad spoke excitedly about how great it would be for me to have a brother figure in my life. Over the following months, Dad spent increasingly more time with Amanda and Kyle, often leaving me home alone on weekends, while they went to Kyle's sporting events or on day trips. When he was home, conversations increasingly centered around Kyle's accomplishments, most of which seemed exaggerated. "Kyle scored the winning goal in his soccer game today," Dad would announce, despite Kyle being a bench warmer, according to Amanda's own previous complaints. "Kyle's thinking about engineering schools." He'd say another time, though I'd overheard Amanda worrying about Kyle's failing grades in math and science. I tried not to be jealous, but it hurt to see Dad becoming so invested in another child when he was spending less time with me. Small things began to change. He missed my debate team finals to attend Kyle's average soccer game. He forgot to help me with college application research as he'd promised. My achievements were acknowledged with distracted nods, while Kyle's mediocre report card with a single B- was cause for celebration. 6 months into their relationship, Dad dropped the bombshell that Amanda and Kyle would be moving into our house. I had a bad feeling, but I smiled and tried to be supportive. After all, I wanted Dad to be happy, and I was leaving for college in less than 2 years anyway. "This will be great for all of us," Dad insisted, squeezing my shoulder. "You'll see, Roxy, we'll be a real family again." If only I had known what family would come to mean. The day Amanda and Kyle moved in marked the true beginning of my nightmare. 2 moving trucks pulled up to our modest house filled with expensive furniture and countless boxes of their belongings. "We'll need to make some space," Amanda announced, surveying our living room with a critical eye. "This furniture is a bit outdated, don't you think, honey?" She directed this at my father, who nodded without hesitation. Within a week, most of the furniture my parents had chosen together was either in storage or sold. Family photos that had lined our hallway were replaced with professionally taken portraits of Amanda and Kyle, with just 1 or 2 pictures of Dad included. Pictures of my mother disappeared, entirely relegated to my bedroom or boxes in the attic. "We need to make this place feel like home for everyone," Dad explained when he saw my face as I watched him taking down a photo of Mom holding me as a baby. "Amanda thinks it's not healthy to dwell on the past too much." Then came the bedroom situation. Our house had 3 bedrooms, the master bedroom, my room, and a small home office where Dad sometimes worked. I assumed Kyle would take the office, but Amanda had other ideas. "Kyle needs a proper bedroom with a closet," Amanda insisted. "The office is too small for a growing boy, and your room is bigger, Roxanne." Just like that, I was informed I would be moving to the converted office while Kyle took my bedroom. The room I'd had since I was a baby. The room Mom had painted and decorated with me. The room where she'd read me stories and comforted me after nightmares. "It's just a room, Roxanne," Dad said when I protested. "Don't be selfish. Kyle's going to be living here full-time too." I spent a weekend cramming my belongings into the smaller space, watching as Kyle carelessly tossed his things into my old room, immediately putting up posters over the walls that still had traces of my personality. The worst part was seeing him handle my belongings that hadn't been moved yet, with complete disregard, dropping books that had been gifts from my mother onto the floor. With Amanda firmly established as the lady of the house, the daily dynamics shifted dramatically. Mealtimes, once filled with conversation about my day and interests, now revolved around Kyle. If I tried to share news about a school achievement or club activity, Amanda would quickly interject. "That's nice, Roxanne, but did you hear about Kyle's tryout for the basketball team? The coach says he has real potential." Dad, who once beamed with pride at my academic accomplishments, now seemed barely interested. When I showed him my perfect score on a difficult calculus test, he merely glanced at it and said, "Good job," before returning to a conversation with Amanda about Kyle's college prospects, despite Kyle's mediocre grades. Behind Dad's back, Amanda and Kyle showed their true colours. Amanda would make cutting remarks about how much space my books took up or how I spent too much time hidden away with those computers. Kyle was worse, making fun of my interest in technology and referring to me as the boring stepsister when Dad wasn't around. "Shouldn't you be trying to look prettier instead of staring at screens all day?" Kyle commented once. "No wonder you don't have a boyfriend." When I approached Dad about these comments, he dismissed my concerns. "You're being too sensitive, Roxanne. They're just adjusting to the new living situation. You need to make more effort to be part of this family." Family. The word began to lose meaning as I watched my father transform into someone I barely recognized. The man who had once been my rock, my biggest supporter, now seemed annoyed by my very presence. The breaking point of this first phase of betrayal came when I received news that I was a finalist for a prestigious science competition. My project on algorithmic efficiency had been selected from thousands of entries nationwide, and finalists were invited to present their work at a national convention. It was a huge honor that could significantly boost my college applications. Excited, I waited until dinner to share the news, hoping Dad would be proud. As we sat down to eat, I took a deep breath and announced, "I have some big news. My science project was selected as a national finalist." Before Dad could respond, Amanda cut in. "That's nice. But guess what? Kyle scored the winning touchdown in today's game. The scouts from State University were watching." She beamed at Kyle, who smirked across the table at me. Dad immediately turned to Kyle, his face lighting up. "That's amazing, son. Why didn't you say something right away? We should celebrate." "And Dad," I said, trying to redirect his attention, "did you hear what I said about the national science competition?" He glanced at me, slightly annoyed at the interruption. "Yes, that's good, Roxanne, very good. But this is huge for Kyle's future. A sports scholarship could be life-changing." That night they went out for ice cream to celebrate Kyle's touchdown. I wasn't invited. I stayed home and cried, mourning the loss of the father I had known, wondering what I had done to deserve being so thoroughly replaced in his heart. The day the college acceptance letters arrived should have been one of the happiest of my life. I had applied to several top engineering programs, but my dream school was MIT. Their computer science program was unparalleled, and I had worked tirelessly throughout high school to maintain a perfect GPA, excel in advanced courses, and build an impressive portfolio of coding projects to maximize my chances of acceptance. When I checked the mail that afternoon and saw the thick envelope from MIT, my heart raced. With trembling hands, I opened it right there on the front porch. The first line told me everything. Congratulations. We are pleased to offer you admission to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology class of 2009. But that wasn't all. I had been awarded a prestigious merit scholarship that would cover most of my tuition. I would still need money for living expenses, books, and the remainder of the tuition, but this was beyond what I had dared to hope for. I ran into the house clutching the letter, eager to share this momentous news with my father. He was in the living room watching TV with Amanda and Kyle. Dad, look. I held out the letter, my voice shaking with excitement. I got into MIT with a scholarship. He looked up from the screen, a brief smile crossing his face. That's great, Roxy. Before he could say more, Kyle interrupted with a groan. Can you move? You're blocking the TV. I stepped aside, waiting for Dad to say something more to show the excitement I knew the old him would have felt. Instead, Amanda spoke up. Speaking of college, we got some news today too. Kyle's final transcript came, and unfortunately, his GPA isn't quite what the state university was looking for. I tried not to show my lack of surprise. Kyle had barely passed his classes, spending more time playing video games than studying. Dad's face fell. What does that mean for his admission? Amanda sighed dramatically. They've rescinded his acceptance. He'll need to either attend community college or take a gap year to improve his application. That's not fair, Kyle protested. Those teachers had it in for me, and those tests were rigged. I stood awkwardly still holding my acceptance letter as the conversation completely shifted to Kyle's disappointment. No one asked to see my letter or inquired about the details of my scholarship. My achievement, the culmination of years of hard work, had been dismissed in seconds. 2 days later, Dad called a family meeting. I thought perhaps he'd finally had time to process my news and wanted to celebrate properly. I entered the living room with a hopeful heart. Dad sat on the couch with Amanda, while Kyle lounged in the recliner playing a handheld video game, despite the supposed importance of the meeting. Roxanne, we've been discussing options for Kyle's future. Dad began without preamble. After careful consideration, we've decided that the best path forward is for him to attend Brighton Academy. Brighton Academy was an expensive private school known for its connections to prestigious universities. Many students who couldn't get into top colleges directly went there for a year of intensive preparation before reapplying. That sounds like a good option, I said cautiously, not understanding why this required a family meeting. The thing is, Dad continued, not quite meeting my eyes, the tuition is substantial, $40,000 for the year. Something cold settled in my stomach. Okay. Amanda jumped in. Your father has been saving for your college education for years, and now that you have that wonderful scholarship, we thought it would make sense to redirect those funds to help Kyle. I stared at them in disbelief. You want to use my college fund for Kyle? It's not just your college fund, Roxanne, Dad said, his voice hardening. It's money that I set aside for education purposes. But it was Mom's life insurance money, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She wanted that to go toward my education. Amanda's eyes narrowed. That was years ago, Roxanne. Families evolve. Priorities change. What about my living expenses, books? The part of tuition the scholarship doesn't cover. I asked, fighting to keep my voice steady. You can take out student loans like most kids, Kyle said without looking up from his game. Or get a job. Not everything has to be handed to you. The irony of this statement coming from him was staggering. Your mother would want us to support both of our children, Amanda added, emphasizing the word our in a way that made my skin crawl. She wouldn't want Kyle to suffer just because you got lucky with a scholarship. That was when something snapped inside me. Don't you dare speak about what my mother would want. You didn't know her. She saved that money specifically for my education. It was her dying wish that Dad use it to help me go to college. Watch your tone, young lady, Amanda warned. I turned to my father, pleading. Dad, you promised Mom, you promised me, that money is for my education. Dad looked uncomfortable, but resolute. Kyle is my son now, and he needs this opportunity. You've always been the smart one, Roxanne. You'll figure it out. You have your scholarship. Kyle has nothing right now. Because he didn't work for anything, I cried, tears streaming down my face. I spent 4 years working my ass off while he played video games and partied, and now you're punishing me for succeeding and rewarding him for failing. Kyle threw down his game. Not everyone's a brain like you. Some of us have other talents. Like what? I shot back. What exactly are you good at, Kyle, besides manipulating my father? That's enough, Dad shouted, standing up. I've made my decision. The money is going to Kyle's education, and that's final. Kyle is my son too now, and he needs me more than you do right now. I stared at my father, a stranger wearing the face of the man who had once been my world. In that moment, I knew our relationship would never be the same. Mum would be ashamed of you, I whispered. That night, I lay in my 2 small rooms surrounded by boxes I'd never fully unpacked and made a decision. I wouldn't stay where I wasn't valued. I called my best friend Sophia, whose family had always treated me like one of their own, and asked if I could stay with them until I left for college in the fall. To my relief, they immediately agreed. The next morning, while everyone was out, I packed everything that mattered to me into my car. Photos of Mum, my clothes, my laptop and tech equipment, and the few mementos of my childhood that hadn't been packed away. I left a brief note, telling Dad where I was going, though I doubted he would care much. As I drove away from the only home I'd ever known, I glanced in the rearview mirror one last time. No one was coming after me. No one was calling my name. I was on my own now, betrayed by the one person who should have protected me above all others. The Alvarez family welcomed me with open arms. Sophia's parents set up their guest room for me and insisted I was welcome to stay as long as I needed. Their warm, chaotic household with 4 kids and constant activity was a stark contrast to the tense, Kyle-centric atmosphere I'd left behind. Mi casa es tu casa, Mr. Alvarez told me, squeezing my shoulder gently. Any daughter of Sarah's is family to us. Mrs. Alvarez had been my mother's close friend, and she seemed to understand my pain without me having to explain it. She never pushed me to talk about what had happened, but was there with a hug or homemade meal whenever I needed comfort. I expected Dad to call to come looking for me, to show some sign that he cared about my abrupt departure. The first week passed in silence, then another. By the 3rd week, I received a brief text. Hope you're doing well at Sophia's. Left some mail for you on their porch. No apology, no request to come home, just mail forwarding. I threw myself into preparing for MIT, working 2 summer jobs to save money for expenses. I waitressed at a local diner in the mornings and did tech support at an electronics store in the afternoons. Between shifts, I took free online coding courses to ensure I'd be ready for my classes in the fall. When September came, I hugged the Alvarez's goodbye and boarded a bus to Boston. I had barely enough money for my first semester's expenses, but I was determined to make it work. MIT was everything I had dreamed of and more. The campus hummed with innovation and intellectual energy that matched my own. For the first time in years, I felt like I truly belonged somewhere. My roommate Jessica was a physics major with a wicked sense of humor who quickly became a close friend. My professors recognized my talent and pushed me to excel. To cover my living expenses, I took a work-study position in the computer science department and picked up freelance web development projects. My schedule was grueling. I was often up until 2 or 3 in the morning coding either for class projects or paid work before rising at 7 for my first class. Weekends that other students spent partying, I spent in the library or hunched over my laptop in coffee shops, building websites for small businesses. Through mutual friends, I occasionally heard news of Dad, Amanda, and Kyle. Kyle had lasted 1 semester at Brighton Academy before dropping out. Dad and Amanda were still together, though rumours suggested their relationship had become strained. I tried not to care, focusing instead on building my new life. By junior year, I had established myself as one of the top students in the computer science program. Professor Abernathy, a legendary figure in artificial intelligence research, selected me for a coveted spot in his advanced research lab. Under his mentorship, I developed an algorithm for improving natural language processing in AI systems that attracted attention from several tech companies. You have a remarkable mind, Ms. Turner, Professor Abernathy told me after I presented my research at a department symposium. And more importantly, you have the drive to match it. That combination is rare and valuable. During my senior year, job offers started rolling in. Google, Microsoft, Amazon all wanted to recruit me. I eventually accepted a position with a mid-sized tech firm in Boston that was doing groundbreaking work in AI communication systems. The salary was generous, and the role would give me more hands-on experience than I might get as a small cog in a tech giant. I graduated summa cum laude with no family in the audience to cheer my accomplishment. The Alvarezes drove up from Ohio to support me, and Jessica's parents kindly included me in their celebration dinner. I told myself it didn't matter that I had built a new family of choice, but the absence of my father left a hollow space I couldn't quite fill. At Tektron Systems, I quickly established myself as a valuable team member. My algorithm innovations saved the company millions in processing costs, and by my second year, I was leading a small development team. I lived modestly, saving as much of my salary as possible while continuing to pay off my student loans. The idea for my own company began as conversations with two colleagues, Amir and Lucia, during late-night coding sessions. We all recognized gaps in how existing companies were approaching human-computer interaction and believed we could build something better. The current systems treat language as a problem to solve, I explained as we sketched ideas on a whiteboard. But what if we approach it as a relationship to nurture instead? For a year, we moonlighted on our project while maintaining our day jobs. Evenings and weekends were consumed by coding sessions in my small apartment takeout containers and empty coffee cups littering every surface. We pooled our savings, scraped together investments from friends, and finally took the leap. Talkbridge was born in a tiny office with second-hand furniture and precisely one window that wouldn't open properly. The early days were beyond challenging. We lived on ramen and determination, working 18-hour days, sleeping on office couches, and pouring every cent back into the company. Our breakthrough came when a mid-sized healthcare provider tested our conversational AI system for patient intake processes. The results showed a 30% improvement in patient satisfaction and a 25% reduction in processing time compared to their existing systems. Word spread. More clients signed on. We expanded from 3 employees to 10, then 20. By the 5-year mark, Talkbridge had grown to over 100 employees and moved into proper offices in a gleaming downtown building. Our technology was being licensed by companies across multiple industries, from healthcare to customer service to educational platforms. Now at 35, I am the CEO of a company valued at over $80 million with 200 employees across 3 offices. My personal net worth on paper is considerable, though I still live relatively simply. The scared, betrayed girl who left home with nothing but determination has become a woman who built something meaningful from scratch. I've created a company culture deliberately opposite to the family dynamic I experienced. At Talkbridge, merit is rewarded regardless of background or connections. We offer generous educational benefits, mentorship programs, and a supportive environment where everyone's contributions are valued. I take particular pride in our internship program that targets promising students from disadvantaged backgrounds. Through it all, I had no contact with my former family. I had learned to live without them, to fill that space with friendships and professional relationships built on mutual respect rather than obligation. Or so I thought until the day an email notification changed everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon like any other. I was reviewing quarterly projections with my CFO when my assistant pinged me about an unusual email that had come through the company's general contact form. Ms. Turner, there's an email you might want to see personally. Someone named Kyle Williams is inquiring about employment opportunities, specifically mentioning a family connection to you. I felt a cold weight settle in my stomach. Kyle Williams, my former stepbrother. I hadn't heard that name in years, and certainly never expected to see it in my professional inbox. Forward it to me, please, I replied, trying to keep my voice neutral. When the email arrived, I excused myself from the meeting and retreated to my office to read it privately. The message was short, but managed to be both presumptuous and poorly written. Hey Roxy, long time no talk. I heard from someone that you run this company now. Pretty crazy. I'm looking for a new job opportunity and figured family should help family. I'm interested in one of your management positions, something senior level with good pay. I've got lots of experience working with people and think I'd be great at running a team. Let me know when I can start, Kyle. No resume attached, no mention of qualifications, not even a proper greeting or closing. Just an entitled demand wrapped in fake familiarity, and the audacity to call me Roxy, a nickname only my father and mother had ever used. I sat back in my chair, momentarily stunned. After all these years, this was how he reached out. Not with an apology, not with any acknowledgement of the past, but with his hand outstretched, expecting to be given a high-level position he clearly wasn't qualified for. Curiosity got the better of me. I asked our HR director to discreetly look into Kyle Williams's employment history. The report I received was unsurprising, yet still somehow disappointing. Kyle had never completed a college degree. Since dropping out of Brighton Academy, he had held 7 different jobs, never staying at any for more than 18 months. His employment history showed a pattern of starting in entry-level positions, being passed over for promotions, then quitting or being terminated. His most recent position had been as a sales associate at an electronics store, which he'd left 6 months ago with no new employment listed since. After careful consideration, I composed a professionally courteous rejection email. Dear Mr. Williams, thank you for your interest in Talk Bridge. At this time, we do not have any positions that match your qualifications. All our management roles require minimum educational credentials and relevant industry experience. We wish you success in your job search. Talkbridge HR Department. I had the email sent from our general HR account rather than my personal email. There was no need to engage directly. As far as I was concerned, that would be the end of it. I was wrong. A week later, I was in my office reviewing a new partnership agreement when my phone rang. The caller ID showed unknown number, but something compelled me to answer rather than letting it go to voicemail as I usually would. Roxanne Turner speaking. Roxanne, it's your father. I nearly dropped the phone. His voice, older and rougher than I remembered, sent me spiraling back to that kitchen table where he had chosen Kyle over me, where he had betrayed not just me but my mother's memory. What do you want? I managed to ask, my voice surprisingly steady despite the emotional turmoil inside. What I want is for you to explain why you're refusing to help your brother. He said, his tone immediately accusatory. After everything this family has done for you, this is how you repay us. I almost laughed at the absurdity. Everything this family has done for me, like stealing my college fund, like pushing me out of my own home, like forgetting I existed once. Amanda and Kyle came along, that family. Don't be so dramatic, Roxanne. We gave you a roof over your head, food, clothing. We supported you. Until you didn't, I replied coldly. And Kyle isn't my brother. He never was. He's my son, Dad insisted, which makes him your family, and family helps family. Is that so? Where was that philosophy when I needed my family? I heard muffled voices in the background, then Amanda's shrill tone came through. Roxanne, this is Amanda. I don't appreciate your attitude. Kyle told us you run some kind of computer company now, and you refused to even interview him for a management position. After all the opportunities your father gave you, this is simply ungrateful. My blood boiled. Opportunities. What opportunities would those be, Amanda? The opportunity to be pushed aside for your precious Kyle. The opportunity to fund his education with my mother's life insurance money, or perhaps the opportunity to be told I wasn't important enough to be considered family anymore. More muffled conversation then, Kyle's voice. Listen, Roxy, I don't know why you're being such a bitch about this. It's just a job. It's not like I'm asking for a handout. That's exactly what you're asking for, I replied evenly. A senior management position that you're not remotely qualified for, based solely on a family connection that you and your mother severed years ago. We're in trouble here, Roxanne, my father finally admitted, his voice quieter. The company I worked for went bankrupt 2 years ago. I've been working odd jobs, but it's not enough. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage. The bank is threatening foreclosure. Kyle hasn't been able to find steady work. We need help. For a moment, a tiny part of me felt a flicker of sympathy. Then I remembered crying alone in Sophia's guest room, working 2 jobs to afford basic necessities for college, the countless nights of exhaustion as I built my company from nothing. That sounds difficult, I said, my voice cool. But it's not my problem. You made your choice years ago about who your family was. I suggest you ask them for help. Amanda's voice grew louder. How dare you, after everything we did for you? You did nothing for me except push me out of my own home and take what was rightfully mine. I said, my patience wearing thin. And now you have the audacity to demand I hand Kyle a high-paying job he isn't qualified for. He's your brother, she screeched. No, he's not. And you're not my family. None of you are. You made that abundantly clear years ago when you chose him over me, when you stole my college fund, when you let me walk out the door without a word. So let me be equally clear. Don't call this number again. Don't contact my company again. You are nothing to me. I hung up my hand, shaking slightly. For years I had imagined what I might say if I ever spoke to them again. Now that it had happened, I felt oddly hollow. Not relieved, not vindicated, just empty. That emptiness wouldn't last long, as I would soon discover. The confrontation was far from over. A month passed without further contact from my former family. I had almost convinced myself the matter was closed when my assistant's voice came through the intercom one Wednesday morning. Ms. Turner, there are 3 people in the lobby insisting on seeing you. They don't have an appointment, but they're claiming to be your family. A Mr. Williams, a Ms. Williams, and a younger Mr. Williams. My stomach dropped. They had actually come to my workplace. The audacity was breathtaking. How do they look? I asked, not quite sure why that mattered to me. My assistant hesitated. Honestly, not great. The older gentleman seems very tired. The woman looks angry. The younger man looks unkempt. I considered having security escort them out immediately, but curiosity won out. What had driven them to this point of desperation? Put them in the small conference room on the first floor. Tell them I'll give them 15 minutes, but that's all. I took my time going downstairs, using the minutes to compose myself. When I finally entered the conference room, the sight that greeted me was jarring. My father had aged dramatically. His hair was now completely grey, his face lined with wrinkles. I didn't remember his shoulders stooped as if carrying a great weight. Amanda looked harder, her once carefully maintained appearance now showing signs of neglect. And Kyle, who had been a reasonably attractive, if arrogant teenager, now looked bloated and dishevelled with thinning hair and an unhealthy pallor. "Roxanne?" my father said, standing awkwardly. "Thank you for seeing us." I remained by the door, maintaining physical distance. "You have 15 minutes. What do you want?" Amanda jumped in immediately. "We want what any decent person would give their family. Help!" I raised an eyebrow. "And what kind of help are you looking for?" "A job for Kyle, for starters," she said. "Something with authority and a good salary, and maybe some financial assistance until we get back on our feet." "The bank gave us final notice on the house," my father added quietly. "We have 30 days before foreclosure." I looked at Kyle, who was examining his fingernails rather than meeting my gaze. "And what do you have to say for yourself, Kyle? Why should I hire you for any position, let alone a management role?" He finally looked up, his expression a mixture of entitlement and desperation. "Because I'm family, and I've got people skills. I know how to talk to people." "Do you have a college degree?" I asked, already knowing the answer. "No, but college is overrated," he replied with a dismissive wave. "Look at Zuckerberg, he dropped out." He dropped out of Harvard, not a remedial academy, and he did so because he was already running a successful company. I corrected. "What relevant experience do you have for a technology company? Can you code? Do you understand artificial intelligence systems? Have you ever managed a team or a project?" Kyle shifted uncomfortably. "Not exactly, but I can learn. I'm a quick learner." "Are you, because your employment history suggests otherwise?" His face reddened. "You looked into me. That's invasive." "That's due diligence, which is what any company does before hiring. Your work history shows you've never held a job longer than 18 months, and you've never been promoted. Why would I place you in a management position over people who've earned their roles through hard work and proven ability?" Amanda interjected. "This is exactly the kind of elitism that's wrong with corporate America. Not everyone has the advantages you had, Roxanne." I stared at her momentarily speechless, at the sheer irony of her statement. "Advantages? You mean like having my college fund stolen, or being thrown out of my home, or having to work 2 jobs while studying to afford basic necessities? Those advantages?" "You've always been dramatic," she sniffed. "We never threw you out. You chose to leave." "After you made it abundantly clear I wasn't welcome," I replied. "After you took what was mine and gave it to him." I gestured toward Kyle. "Your father made those decisions, not me," Amanda protested, throwing my father under the bus without hesitation. Dad finally spoke up, his voice tired. "Roxanne, I know I made mistakes. I got caught up in trying to make my new family work, and I lost sight of what was important. I regret that." His words might have meant something years ago, but now they felt hollow. Regret doesn't change what happened. It doesn't erase what you did. "But can't you find it in your heart to forgive?" he pleaded. "We're desperate here. I studied the 3 people before me, this trio, who had once made me feel so small and unwanted. Now they were the ones in need, looking to me for salvation." The irony wasn't lost on me. "Let me be very clear," I said, my voice steady. "I will never give Kyle a management position at my company. We hire based on merit here, not family connections. That's one of our core values. Every manager here has earned their role through demonstrated skill, experience, and commitment." Kyle's face contorted with anger. "So you're just going to let us lose everything? What kind of heartless bitch have you become?" "I learnt from the best," I replied coolly. "You taught me exactly how family treats each other. You taught me that blood means nothing when convenience and self-interest are at stake." "We made mistakes," Dad admitted. "But does that mean we deserve to be homeless?" "Your housing situation is a consequence of your choices, not mine," I said. "You chose to spend my college fund on Kyle's education, which he wasted. You chose to prioritize his wants over my needs for years. You're still choosing him now, coming here to demand a position he doesn't deserve, rather than asking if there might be an entry-level position he could actually qualify for. Amanda's eyes narrowed. Entry-level? That's insulting. Kyle deserves better than some menial position. Based on what? I challenged. His stellar work ethic, his impressive educational achievements, his loyalty and integrity, because from where I'm standing he has demonstrated none of those qualities. Kyle stood abruptly. I don't have to take this from you. Come on, Mom. Dad, let's go. She's always been jealous of me anyway. I couldn't help but laugh at that, which only made his face redden further. Jealous. Of what exactly? Your string of failed jobs, your lack of education, your complete dependence on others to solve your problems. Yes, I'm absolutely green with envy. My father looked devastated, caught between his wife and stepson's anger and his own apparent remorse. Roxanne, please. If not for them, then for me. I know I failed you, but I'm still your father. Those words struck a chord not of sympathy, but of clarity. You stopped being my father the day you chose them over me, the day you took what my mother left to secure my future and gave it to someone who didn't appreciate or deserve it, the day you let me walk out the door and didn't come after me. I moved toward the door, signaling the end of our meeting. This conversation is over. I suggest you leave before I call security. So that's it? Amanda demanded. You're just going to turn your back on family when we need you. I paused at the door. You turned your back on me first. I'm simply returning the favor. Good day. As I walked away, I heard Kyle's angry voice behind me. This isn't over. You can't treat us like this. But it was over. At least that chapter was. I had faced my past and found I was stronger than its shadows. Whatever happened to them now was not my responsibility or my burden to bear. A week passed. Then two. I threw myself into work, trying not to dwell on the confrontation with my former family. The encounter had stirred up old wounds, but I was determined not to let it derail the life I had built. Then on a rainy Friday afternoon, a letter arrived at my office. Not an email, not a text, but an actual handwritten letter. My assistant delivered it with raised eyebrows, noting that it had been hand-delivered to our reception desk. The handwriting on the envelope was my father's, still recognizable after all these years. I considered throwing it away unopened, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a 5-page letter written on lined paper. Dear Roxanne, it began. I'm writing this by hand because some things deserve more than a hastily typed email or text. What I have to say to you deserves time and thought. First, I want to apologize. Not the rushed, self-serving apology I offered in your conference room, but a real, genuine recognition of how deeply I failed you. I failed as a father. I failed as the keeper of your mother's memory and wishes. I failed as the one person who should have protected you above all others. When your mother died, I promised her I would make sure you were always safe, loved, and supported. For a time, I kept that promise. But then I met Amanda, and something in me broke. I was so desperate not to be alone, so eager to have a complete family again, that I allowed myself to be manipulated and controlled. This isn't an excuse, just an explanation. Amanda was very skilled at making me feel that any hesitation to prioritize Kyle was a sign that I wasn't committed to our new family. Bit by bit, I surrendered my own judgment and values to keep peace in the house and to maintain the illusion that I had a second chance at happiness. The truth is, I was never truly happy after your mother died until I threw myself into being the perfect stepfather to Kyle. It was easier than facing my grief. It was easier than the challenging but rewarding work of raising a brilliant daughter who reminded me so much of her mother. By the time you left, I had convinced myself that you would be fine because you were so capable and intelligent. I told myself you had your scholarship and your bright future while Kyle needed more support. I was wrong. So terribly, unforgivably wrong. After you left, things fell apart quickly. Kyle never completed his education at Brighton Academy despite the money we spent. He simply didn't apply himself. He expected everything to be handed to him because that's what Amanda and I had taught him to expect. The money was gone within 2 years. Your mother's insurance money, my savings, all of it wasted. When I finally began to question our decisions, Amanda became cold and distant. We stayed together, but there was little love left. I lost my job when the company downsized 5 years ago. I found another, but at significantly lower pay. 3 years ago, the second company went bankrupt. Since then, I've worked a series of temporary jobs, none paying enough to maintain our lifestyle. 2 years ago, I discovered Amanda was having an affair with her boss. When confronted, she didn't even deny it. She left 6 months later, though she returns whenever she needs money or a place to stay. She and Kyle both live with me intermittently, depending on their current situations. None of this is your problem or responsibility. I'm not sharing it to make you feel sorry for me or to excuse my actions. I'm sharing it because you deserve the truth and because I want you to know that I have faced the consequences of my choices. I am so incredibly proud of what you've accomplished, Roxanne. I've followed your career from afar. Each time I read about your company's success or saw your name mentioned in tech publications, my heart swelled with pride, even as it broke, knowing I had no right to claim any part in your achievements. You built your success despite me, not because of me. You are every bit your mother's daughter, strong and brilliant and determined. She would be so proud of you. I am so proud of you, though I know I've lost the right to tell you that. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect help. I don't expect anything from you, nor do I deserve it. I just wanted you to know that I recognize the magnitude of my failure as your father, and that not a day goes by that I don't regret the choices I made and the pain I caused you. Whatever you decide, know that I will always be your father, even if I failed terribly at being a good one. With love and deepest regrets, Dad. I sat with the letter for a long time, reading it twice more as tears blurred my vision. It didn't erase the past or heal all wounds, but it was the first acknowledgement I'd received of the real damage that had been done to me. Not excuses, not demands, just accountability. After careful consideration, I texted the number I still had for my father. I received your letter. I'm willing to meet and talk, just you, at the Corner Cafe on 5th Street Sunday at 10 a.m. His reply came almost immediately. I'll be there. Thank you. That Sunday morning, I arrived early and chose a quiet table in the back. At precisely 10 a.m., my father walked in. He looked even more worn down than during our office confrontation, but there was a dignity in his bearing that had been missing then. He sat across from me, hands clasped nervously on the table. Thank you for meeting me, Roxanne. Your letter. I began, then paused to collect my thoughts. It's the first time you've really acknowledged what happened. He nodded sadly. It took losing everything to see clearly. That's not an excuse, just the truth. Where are Amanda and Kyle now? I asked. Amanda comes and goes. Currently gone. Kyle is staying in my apartment, sleeping on the couch. We've been evicted from the house. The bank took it last week. I nodded, processing this information. Your letter mentioned you've been following my career. A small, genuine smile crossed his face. Every article, every mention. You've built something remarkable, Roxanne, truly groundbreaking. Your mother would be so proud. I think about her all the time, I admitted. Especially when we hit major milestones at the company. I wish she could see it. She can, he said softly. I believe that. We talked for over 2 hours, carefully navigating the minefield of our shared past. He didn't ask for money or a job for Kyle. He didn't make demands or excuses. He just shared his story and listened to parts of mine. As we prepared to leave, I made a decision. I'm not ready to forgive everything, I told him honestly. That may take more time, but I'm willing to start talking again. Small steps. Relief washed over his face. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. And about Kyle, I added, reaching into my bag. I pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. This has my HR director's email address. If Kyle is genuinely interested in working and learning, have him send a proper resume and cover letter for our internship program. It's entry-level minimum wage to start, no special treatment. If he's serious about turning his life around, it's an opportunity. If not, then that's his choice. Dad took the card carefully as if it were made of glass. I'll give it to him, but I can't promise he'll take it. He's not in a good place right now. That's his journey to figure out, I said, just like I had to figure out mine. As we parted ways outside the cafe, Dad hesitated, then asked, May I hug you? I nodded, and for a brief moment, I was wrapped in the familiar embrace that had once meant safety and love. It was different now, both of us changed by time and experience, but there was a whisper of what once had been. Later that afternoon, I sent an email to Kyle's address that had been used in his original job inquiry. Kyle, I've spoken with my father and given some thought to our situation. While I cannot and will not offer you a management position, I am willing to extend an opportunity. Talkbridge has an internship program designed for individuals looking to build skills and experience from the ground up. It's entry-level with corresponding compensation, but it offers real learning opportunities and potential for advancement based solely on merit and performance. If you're interested in applying, please send a proper resume and cover letter to the email address below. This would be your opportunity, not something given to you because of family connection. What you make of it would be entirely up to you. The choice is yours. Roxanne Turner, CEO, TalkBridge Technologies. I didn't know if he would take the offer or scoff at it. And in truth, it didn't matter. What mattered was that I had extended the possibility of a new beginning based on merit rather than entitlement. I had offered a hand without compromising my values or the company I had built. As I sat in my home office that evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here, from the scared, betrayed teenager who left home with nothing but determination to the successful businesswoman who had built something meaningful from scratch. The wounds of the past might never fully heal, but they had shaped me without breaking me. I had learned that family isn't just about blood or obligation. It's about respect, support, and genuine care. I had built my own family of friends and colleagues who valued me for who I am, not what I could give them. Sometimes the people who should love us the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. But that pain doesn't define us. What defines us is how we rise above it, how we build something beautiful from the ashes of disappointment. In the end, living well truly is the best response to those who underestimated us. Have you ever had to rebuild your life after someone you trusted betrayed you? How did you find the strength to move forward? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. And if this resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that they too can rise above their circumstances. Thank you for listening, and remember, your worth isn't determined by those who failed to see it.